Travis Winggood, so last video of the day before I go to bed here. I'm still getting Mormons who just don't want to get it. It's blatant, and they still just don't get it. I can only assume that the brainwashing is so extreme. I commented to one viewer who made a comment the other day, explaining to him how my experience in Mormon Utah has been a struggle. As I was born and raised in Southern California, went to Rick's, went on my mission to New York, and that's where I first got my real experience with Mormons. Well, I'm trying to think if Rick's was, but especially on my mission, Rick's only in the classrooms with the teachers differing, but it wasn't a Utah experience. Mission was the first time that religion and Utah Mormons were clashing with what I had known and studied and understood from the church. I remember an elderly couple, can't remember their names anymore, but he was talking about all sorts of weird ideas that all of us younger generation of missionaries had been taught in seminary, completely different from what he was coming up with for the second coming. And I remember Mark Augustine, who was forced to stick with me for 6 months because he couldn't get along with me. He had told an investigator who said, "Oh, Joseph Smith practiced polygamy." And at that time I had known that my third great aunt, Desdemona Fulmer, was a wife to Joseph Smith, but my parents never informed me that the sealing took place after Joseph's death. That was left out. I never told Mark because I knew you don't correct somebody in public or with other people on your mission or even in a marriage. You make the corrections privately afterward. Though I'm not quite sure for some situations, but if it's something that is not life-threatening, I definitely can see an argument for talking in private to correct the person, but I'd forgotten by the time we got back to the apartment. The Utah Mormons on my mission were salesman oriented. That was kind of disturbing. And but when I came to Utah, all hell broke loose. The woman first formally called my wife, or the woman formerly called my first wife, was unhappy that I was pursuing Hebrew. The guidance counselor at the university specifically designed a dual degree with a minor in classical languages so that I could graduate in something rather than just having taken classes as I was doing. And she found out about it, and she was the one who encouraged it. She gave me the book titled Teachings of the Prophet Joseph Smith, published by Joseph Fielding Smith, Jr. And that's where I found the King Follett Discourse, because Brigham Young didn't put it in the Doctrine and Covenants. And so there's also unpublished revelations. I checked Amazon when I got my stimulus, but it was no longer available for sale on Amazon. But there's like several volumes. But when I came to Utah and got dumped here and left because I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, and the first ex didn't want her kids learning Hebrew. My parents came after me as their son. They reined me in to stay in their basement. They tricked us. They had informed us that they had a whole basement apartment all ready for us when we moved down. And it wasn't the case at all. They didn't even have the house ready yet, and then let alone the basement. They intended to have me build the basement for them. So yeah, they played me good, and I should have known better, but I thought, I'm married, I have a family now, certainly they won't treat me like they used to growing up. And so yeah, they dragged the bishop and the other members of the ward in against me, and the church. When I went to the church after having restored my decipherment of Paleo-Hebrew, the church came after me. F. Michael Watson wanted me excommunicated. So my stake presidency and my bishopric were all interrogating me. Who have you told? What are your plans to destroy the church? Oh my God, I just deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. I showed Joseph was correct, and you guys are attacking me. So yeah, the church labeled me a troublemaker. 36434 is my file number, and I have now since turned it around on them. 219 CV 00711, and the last letters have changed since yesterday. It's now CW-DAO is the new judge in the case. Brand new. Used to be a federal defender, so she can understand and sympathize with defendants in the federal courts, which is the church. And she's brand new, so that she now owes her job to the church, as the Mormon judges put her in the position, and to do them a favor, though. And she's also a clerk, experienced, and so that's what this deals with, is a clerical technicality of the church counselors being in default of 24 days. And then, of course, the clerk failing to file my reply. And so, yeah, I put in my email to her, resubmitting my final motion with the orders, to inform her that I had filed those on the 24th of April, the clerk of the court did not enter it in on the docket. So, yeah, she should know about all this stuff, but all she needs to do now is just sign the orders and let me win and leave Utah and say, sayonara, the last righteous man has left Utah. His wife has turned back to Utah and turned into a pillar of salt already. That's the second X, formerly called second X. Yeah, but yeah, the second X, she just, I have gone over it with her. I told her I beat the church is done, the church is closed. She's still thinking, oh, the church is opening up, the church is opening up. I'm going to go to church and go to the temple again. She just doesn't understand what's going on. And she thinks Nelson's the greatest because he's in the position. She will not do the test using the Book of Mormon as the standard for judgment. She won't do it. Mormons will not do it. The 11 million who have left the church back in the day, in 2011, they left because what the church was coming out with in the gospel topic essays was not meeting the standard judgment that they had been taught and raised. So the 11 million now ex-Mormons or former Mormons, whether they signed or not, the majority of them didn't. They're like me. I'm not excommunicated. I didn't sign the papers to say, take my name off the rolls, because I've used that against them in my lawsuit. Because I'm a Mormon, they're committing insurance fraud and tax fraud by keeping me on the rolls. And that's part of the RICO counts. But the ex, she just will not see that Nelson created God in conference. I go over it with her. Who is the cornerstone of the church? Jesus. So why did Nelson put the cornerstone as the church and Jesus on top of it? I'm still going to stick with the church. Nelson's a true prophet. He just created an idol god for Mormons. How much more blatant can you be? You know, and I can understand not seeing the inverted pentagrams. You know, the Seagull Gate, you have to actually be there and stare at it and go, wait a minute, that's an inverted pentagram. Or stare at the Salt Lake Temple, hey, those are inverted pentagrams. And look at the Nauvoo Temple with the designs in remodeling it as it was when Brigham Young first modeled it with the inverted pentagrams. But if you don't even know what an inverted pentagram symbolizes, it's just unbelievable. I mean, they're not really secretively hiding the fact that they are the Church of Lucifer. It's only that they wear the sheepskin rather than their natural wolfskin that Mormons get fooled and deceived. And so, I mean, what do we do now, Mormons? You hate me. You blame me. When you guys drew first blood. I had a guy comment today on my old channel video saying that he knows Mormons are good people. I'm still Mormon. What about me? People just don't see it. Quick to give up on those who betray them by finding out the truth, but they're slow to recognize the truth and leave. And now people are dying. Your family, your loved ones, your friends, your neighbors are dying. And you just don't see it. When Governor Herbert says, hey, on the anniversary of the Illuminati, we're opening up businesses again. And he means a moderate opening, not a full opening, just step by step. But still, he opened. And then he comes out and says that we're downgrading to yellow. And right after he did that, the CDC finally was able to release their guidelines for reopening. And Utah doesn't qualify. And yet the other guy in the governor's office, the first lieutenant or whatever he's called, you should just call it the state president and state vice president. And they're going by the old English ways. But the lieutenant governor, he comes out in an interview and says, oh, we're not going to close down again. If there's a resurgence, no, we're not going to close down again. This is a measured reopening. And this is going to be calculated to not have a resurgence. Oh my God! And Nelson, a medical doctor, he knows. Yes, his specialty was heart surgery, but as a medical doctor, you're trained on this. All things medical. He knows that when an outbreak of a virus commences, you don't do a slow closure, waiting for it to increase before you finally shut everything down. And then when you're not going down in case numbers and deaths and hospitalizations, you don't slowly reopen. He knows this stuff. He's like the CDC, who's been silenced by Trump. He knows. And the reason why is because of the inverted pentagram. It's not Jesus' church. He's not inspired by Jesus. It's Lucifer. The worst case scenario. Benson told us back when I was a teacher, just barely made a teacher. Or was it a priest? Is it priest? Yeah, it's a priest. Was barely made a priest in 86. It's 12 for deacon, 14 for teacher, and 16 for priest. Just barely made a priest. Metallica came out with their Master of Puppets album, or CD, technically. And Benson comes out and says that the hard rock music is evil, stay away from it. And that didn't stop me, by the way. I would sleep to that CD, it's not CDs, cassette. And so, yeah, I would fall asleep by the end of the first side. For those of you who are millennials and are unaware with cassettes and how they function, it's a dual-sided recording on film strip, which is audio instead of video. And so you'd play like 4 songs on the one side, and then you'd have to flip it over to play the 4 songs on the other side. And if you had a player that had reverse, then you can do reverse, but that wears down the film over time. And so back then I was thinking, man, I wish I had something that I didn't have to rewind, that it would just automatically repeat itself. Sure enough, speaking, not too many decades later. But Benson goes and calls us Aaronic priesthood, the royal army of God, the youth of the noble birthright. That we were saved from the premortal existence to come down to earth at this particular time. And he was also the one who had said, as at BYU devotional, the Constitution will not be saved in Washington. What do you have to say about that, Mormons? Are you supporting Trump still? The one who ordered you to drink bleach? Are you sure he's trying to save the Constitution from the deep state? Are you sure he's not the king put in place by the kingmen? You know all this stuff. Others who are not of our religion don't know what I'm talking about. It's coded for us. So I don't know what we do. You're all waiting for Nelson to say, hey, we're going to Missouri. Except for the majority of you here in Utah who think, oh, this is Zion. Yeah, this is Zion, the city of refuge, the place of peace. We had more deaths today, not just with coronavirus, but with shooting deaths. You know, a place of prosperity with a law of consecration. Nope. You all who are unemployed here in Utah are only getting $600 a month. Because Governor Herbert doesn't want to give you anything for free. That's why he wants you back to work, so he doesn't have to pay you the $600, which is far less than minimum wage, but still it's free, and he doesn't want to give it to you, despite the virus causing you to lose your job. And we're still losing jobs here in Utah. Oh yeah, it's going down. It was 9,000 last week's reporting, and for last week's was 7,000. But that's 7,000 people, the majority of whom had families. And of course, the scam artists are out. Some of those may not actually be legitimate claims. The New York Times is reporting. And technically, we're not even supposed to go back to Missouri. That's the place of Adam-on-Diamond. Independence became a place for a temple, but Joseph Smith on July 19th, 1840 designated Southern Illinois for the cities, the pyramid, or the mountain cities, and I say, oh, well, pyramids, because of him involved with Egyptian and stuff. That's the natural conclusion. But pyramid cities in Southern Illinois of Zion and New Jerusalem. That's where we're supposed to go to. As he revealed that he knew that Mormons would betray him and have him murdered in that same talk, which also did not make it into the Doctrine and Covenants. Wonder why? No, I don't. That was rhetorical. But that's the exact spot where the two total solar eclipses occur. We've already had the one. Next one, August 8th. Not April 8th, sorry. Not April 6th, Mormons. April 8th, 2024. The exact same year, and it's expected to be that weekend of conference when the rededication of the Salt Lake Temple will take place, with the inverted pentagrams. As Oakes has already given his Trust in the Lord speech at conference, saying, we're going to start polygamy again, just trust in the Lord. As Nelson has already changed the law of chastity to be the law of the Lord, not the laws legally and lawfully of the land. And so what is the Brighamite Church's law of the Lord regarding marriage, Mormons? Section 132. If you do associative memory, you can assign certain sections to a specific topic. So section 132, 10 virgins. And I've been trying to warn since I found out about the total solar eclipse, the first one. When I saw the deaths of the 3 apostles after the 3rd of the tetrads back in 2015, I thought that was just something kind of interesting. But then the total solar eclipse, I knew that was it. And it's not, well, the signs in the heavens are already fixed. They're a date. And so the Bible gives us precise dates according to the star charts. But for the actions on earth to accurately represent the symbolism of the stars' conjunctions, signs in the heavens, if that's not planned by the enemy, that's just weird and freaky how that works. You know, like the deaths of the apostles. I mean, did they actually get assassinated to correspond with the lunar eclipses? And you have that one woman who has the dream that the eclipses were a sign of the second coming, and yet the church is in denial. They are not even saying that the signs are the signs. They're silent. But they're saying, oh, it's some future time, second coming, it's in the future. The signs have happened. What are you waiting for? Again, inverted pentagram. They are our leaders. They're just deceiving us, lying to us, turning us away, who are dumb enough to believe them when they are ordering our deaths. Nelson shut down the bishop's storehouses. And I saw a picture on their updated coronavirus website page. I'm assuming it's an African country that were given a supply of food. They don't talk about the picture at all. It's just there as the cover photo. And there's nothing about Welfare Square, Bishop storehouses, donations, none of that. Nothing gets reported. It's just a picture of several blacks standing next to boxes of food. You don't know where they are, what happened, why they were getting this, when they got it. Could be a stock photo for all we know. They're just deceiving us, showing us outward images that they know will say, oh, see, everything's fine. You know, like when the South Pacific, it was by Australia, New Zealand, that area, it was an island. They had a monsoon or a hurricane, I guess it's monsoons out there, that destroyed the village. So the church goes in, makes the announcement on the church news, we're donated to this little community. And they got pictures of the representatives of the church standing next to the townsfolk. And you say, oh wow, the church is helping them, great. And then you read what they gave them. Wallets with $200 gift cards. Wallets and $200 in gift cards. I mean, the Book of Mormon itself tells us that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the great and abominable church. The Church of Lucifer. We don't even need an inverted pentagram to tell us. What they do with the $100 billion in just tithing alone, that scandal right before coronavirus, that enough. The Book of Mormon condemns that practice for religions. The church has no right to be called the Church of Jesus Christ and to store up hundreds of billions of dollars, if not in the trillions, when there are people in need, when there are poor, when there are hungry, when there are sick, when there are afflicted. That's why Jesus told the rich man, you've been obedient to everything, now give up your wealth to the poor. And he couldn't do it. I can't give up my wealth. I'd have food insecurity. And that's not exactly what's expected of us as members of the church, because we have the church that would step in and back us up. But the church isn't doing it. During coronavirus, the church is not helping us. They shut down. I'm hearing some people say, oh, I'm still getting food from my bishop. Is it from the storehouse? Is it? Because they closed. They're not making new supplies. If anything, they're draining all their supplies that they currently have. And how long is that going to last? How many people are they giving it out to? That'll determine how fast it's going to go. And the church was not prepared with their storehouses as they should have been. If they've got trillions of dollars, they should have been prepared with storehouses across the world so that we could stay home and not have to worry about obtaining money to survive. Because the church would be there. Because they weren't interested in making money, getting gain, and neglecting Zion. That's the priestcraft passage if you're unfamiliar with your Book of Mormon. So, I mean, if the judge doesn't realize that she's owes the church a favor, in my case, and says, oh, everything looks legit, I guess the church loses, signs the order for me, then yes, I can do something. We're a little late, so it's going to be a little tricky, because we still have coronavirus. We don't want to build Zion with a bunch of sickos. And so we're going to have testing for all who come. And so there's going to be a wait time of 14 days. Remember that? Remember the difference that the news tried to teach us between isolation and quarantine? Which now all of a sudden they've forgotten the definitions? You isolate when you've come in contact with someone you know has the virus, because you need to make sure whether or not you got it or not. 14 days is the time that they are pretty sure that if you get it, you will show the symptoms, the signs, and will have gotten over it by the 14 days. And if you do get it, then you get transferred from isolation into quarantine. But because you're isolated, you haven't passed it on to others. That's why we were supposed to isolate at home, so that we wouldn't pass it on to others. Only go out for necessities like shopping for food. And Amazon would have been fine, except that they treat their employees like crap. And now everybody's saying, oh, we don't want to, we've got cabin fever, we want to go back to our lifestyles. I've lived this lifestyle. I have no problem isolating. But it's disturbing that people forget that you can pass it on to others. Even if you don't have the symptoms. They call it asymptomatic. A is referring to the Greek definition of without symptoms. There's a little Greek for you. Amoral, without morals. If you get it, you have to hope you don't have the risk factors. And Trump should be dead now, which means he has the vaccine, which involves depths of evil beyond what we would have thought possible. That he purposely brought it to America, claiming, oh, I don't want it in America, it would ruin my numbers. He brought it in, despite what he said. And then he escalated it, even though he said, oh, it's cured, it's gone. Got 14, it'll be down to 0 in no time. And then he says, drink bleach. And then he says, we need to reopen. You guys aren't dead yet. Go back to school. Send your kids back to school. Now that it's known that there's a version of it that's mutated to affect children. As we now have hundreds of cases in America now, killing our children. And he wants to send our kids back to school. Do you not see that they're trying to murder us? And yet you get mad at me, you put thumbs down, you say, Mormons are good people, Travis, leave them alone. Let them do what they want to you. No! I will not be bullied. I do get bullied, but I stand up to bullies. And bullies don't like it, because I'm smarter than they are. Because when you're a bully, you're acting on emotional response. And I can just mold you into crumbling jelly because of that. You automatically lose when you use emotions in your arguments. And so, yes, when people try throwing a guilt trip, you're trying to emotionally blackmail me. Trying to guilt trip me into doing what you want me to do. See? You gotta be good if you're going to win an argument. All right, 40 minutes, 8:30. All right, I guess that's it.